life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Brenna is back with us here for this month's review of the real estate numbers. What are the data points that made up our real estate market? What is the market actually doing? Is this finally the bubble everybody's been screaming for and clamoring for since as far back as I can remember in real estate? So, for those that are watching that don't know Brenna, Brenna, go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you? Your role there with Land Title, what Land Title does.
Well, hello, I'm Brenna Harper with Land Title, sales manager here in Cherry Creek and Cherry Creek Lodo. So we put together different data reports every month from for the Greater Metro Denver area. We do it all over the state, but the one that we talk about is Greater Metro Denver. So the 7 major counties, and then Matt and I just try to go through. Kind of break it down, put it into layman terms for people that don't look at this data maybe as much as we do, and talk about kind of what we're seeing out there, what we're feeling out there, and make some sense of it.
Yeah, right. It's telling us a story, right? What is that story, and what do we do with that information? How does it help us win in today's market, regardless of which side of the transaction you might be on, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
I was going to ask if I froze up again.
I didn't know if you were going to continue on with that thought.
No, it's good information. I love doing it. I love kind of diving down deep into the data, right? What is it actually doing? Because it's going to give us that information. So now, before we go in, I've got an icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
If you had to teach a class right now, right, for at least an hour, what class would you teach? And don't do something on your job where we already know you're an expert, right? But what could you teach?
I don't know. Where'd you get this question?
By the way, clearly I put Brenna on the spot. Did not prep her for this. This is just, here you go.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something with dance. I could probably teach a dance class on the spot.
Yeah, that would have been my guess, that you could teach somebody on the spot a dance class.
Yeah,
that's good. So let's dive into the slides. Let's jump into. You want the first to know?
Yep. I want to show some historical data in here. I think it. Am I driving?
Let me know if you're not.
Okay, I'm driving. I just can't see anything. Okay. So the reason I know typically I use a different report. It's the same Metro Denver numbers. This is just called our first to know, which is what we pull on the first of the month. And the reason that I like this one, especially in a changing market, is because this one shows more historical data. We report year over year and month over month on both, but this actually shows it visually. And so I think it's a good, it's just a good visual of what's actually happening in the market. Obviously, we can see some of the changes, but it also puts things into a little bit of perspective. Something that we mentioned last time that I think is still happening, and Matt, I think you can speak to this a little bit more, is what we're seeing in the numbers isn't really what we're feeling on some levels. Because if we look at this, the average close price is flat, basically, right? For single family homes. But if you talk to anyone that's buying or selling or on Facebook or whatever, that is not what they would anticipate. They would anticipate that prices are dropping, the bottom is falling out. So and there's more metrics that kind of speak to that as far as what we're seeing and what we're feeling. So just a little bit of perspective here. This blue, I really cannot see this. Let me see if I can make this bigger here, pull it up on my other screen. The blue line at the top is 2022. The red and the orange lines are the last 2 years of the craziness that we don't want to repeat. And then that green line is 2019, which is more back to that quote unquote normal, using that term loosely, closer to sustainable, balanced market that we've seen. So even though we're flat, even though we've dropped from the peak of the market this year, we are still over 9% up year over year. So it's again that perspective of, are you getting the same interest, the same volatility that you did Q1, Q2 of this year? No. But if you bought your home last year, are you losing value hand over fist? No. Matt, did you want to speak to that at all?
Well, yeah, that's not the conversation that's being had with a lot of folks, right? They're nervous about the market. I'm hearing folks say we missed the market. Did you miss the peak of it? Well, for this year, right now, are we going to see values continue to slide down? Maybe for a little bit, right? But are they going to go back up here in the next couple of years in the short run? I think so, right? This is my prediction, my belief. We have an inventory problem still. There were homes that were just never built, and we have to be able to provide housing for people. Without the inventory, everything else kind of becomes secondary. So, yeah, I think we jumped up there. You can see the average sales price was over 800 for a short minute, right? Dropped back down. We're still almost a 10% appreciation in the market. Now, I don't know who all's active in the stock market, right? But you haven't seen the stock market doing that well over the course of that time. Real estate's been a pretty solid investment from that. And if you look at an almost $70,000 increase in the value of your home over the same time last year, that's still a pretty solid investment. Now, if that continues to drop a little bit and you're still 5% up, 3% up, that's more normal. Historical average, by the way, just for context, is 4%.
Yep.
Right? So 4% is historical average. What we were riding on that wave, what we knew wasn't going to continue at that. So, I guess the question is for most folks, does it make sense to be a buyer right now? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because a couple months ago, the conversation was the market is too volatile. It's, an affordability nightmare, which, our average price point being in the mid sevens, you could see that is probably still an issue. That we don't have cash to bring over appraisal. We don't want to pay $100,000 over asking. Is this the peak of the market? And those are all real concerns. And then it flips, and all of a sudden people are like, oh no, is this the bottom of the market? Am I going to sell my home for less than it's worth? Or am I going to have to do all of this different things? So it's just different problems, right? Or different opportunities. So I think there has been a power shift a little bit. It's gotten, to the point where buyers are not as willing to throw the kitchen sink at an offer because they don't have to. That demand has shifted a little bit. But we're moving more to sustainability and more of an even level of power, which ultimately is what we want. It's just a big adjustment from what we've seen in the last 2 years. And as I've mentioned before, any type of change stalls things out. So we have the change of power, from it being this extreme seller's market to, the numbers would say that it's not a buyer's market, but the way it's feeling is definitely that it's more of a buyer's market. And then you have the interest rates that continue to go up. We saw another little blip in the interest rates this month. But a lot of economists think that that's we're reaching the end of those hikes and that maybe we'll start to go down next year. I don't pretend to know what they're going to do with that, but that's kind of the consensus that we're getting, is that we're at the tail end of some of these rate hikes. But, to Matt's question, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? It probably, it depends on your situation. It's just a different time. It's a different strategy, and you're going to have different problems. So you're borrowing money for super cheap, but you have to come up with 6 figures of money out of pocket, or you don't really have to come up with much out of pocket, but the money is not as cheap to borrow.
Yeah, it's interesting. And gosh, I've been hearing for a number of years, well, the homes are not worth that, right? And mostly from folks that have been in Colorado a very long time. Like this can't be just, everybody's overpaying. Homes just aren't worth what people are paying for.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are concerned that their home's not worth, if they've got to sell, it's not going to be sold at what it's worth.
Yeah.
Your dad's an appraiser. He'll tell you it's only worth what somebody will pay for it. And, if you've got something that a lot of people want, they're going to pay for it. They're going to pay high value. If you have something that nobody wants, well, it doesn't matter what it's worth, quote unquote, to you. It's got less in the value. So for the people that were saying the homes aren't worth what we were paying for, well, yeah, that's what it was worth right in that moment. The value of something fluctuates pretty consistently, especially real estate, as things change, as people get impacted by it. So, the market always is going to tell the truth, right?
Yep.
So
And
we look at the market and say, okay, what is it doing right now? Does that make sense for you specifically as an individual to be a buyer or seller? That's the question we got to ask.
And I think the biggest kind of stall out, or one of the big stall outs that we're having, is it's taking sellers a little bit of time to admit that things have changed, right? So we still have a lot of people pricing their homes outside of the market, because I tell you what, we still have homes that are going under contract the first weekend. And I think I mentioned this last time, but it's not every home, because we only have 1,100 homes on the market. We now have 7,800 homes on the market, which is much better. That's what we want. People have more of a choice. But if your home is not move-in ready, if it's overpriced, if it's, a few different things, if it's in a more of a remote location where maybe not as many people are looking for that area, then yeah, they're going to sit. But we're still seeing homes go under contract, great deals being put together, some different strategies that I think Matt talked about with Mitch, and probably will continue to talk about with different lending solutions and things people are doing. But it's really getting everyone on the same page as to what this market is, and not trying to hang on to earlier this year and say, oh, well, I think, or at one point I could have listed my home for this. You're just going to shoot yourself in the foot with that one.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, when the iPod was released, I could have bought Apple stock at that, and it would be worth X, Y, or Z today, right? So let's give ourselves some grace. We never have that crystal ball. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, right? So Apple could have financially struggled and tanked and been out of business at this point. There's a lot of companies that were strong at one point and then are gone.
Yeah.
So, did you miss the peak of it? Are you still in a good position? Sure. But it's a whole lot less about timing the market perfect. And savvy market investors will tell you the same thing. It's not about trying to hit it at the absolute bottom and hit it at the absolute top. It's consistency within the market. So back to your point, right, Brenna? Real estate's hyper local and hyper personal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been asked this, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Would you buy a house and sell a house in today's market, knowing what you know?
For us personally?
Yeah, for us personally. Assuming you were in the market.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think if the numbers made sense, but I think that's always kind of the answer. It's just in a different light. For what if we were going to move in this hypothetical situation, what we're looking for is very specific. So there's definitely some pros to doing that right now because, potentially you get a lower list price. But I think as cliche as it sounds, like if the numbers made sense, I wouldn't be scared to buy in this market because of the value of my investment.
Yeah. So knowing what we know, assuming that the value could go down over the next 12 months for what we bought today, would you still buy the house? And I would say yes,
Yeah.
right? It's got to check the boxes, right?
Yep.
It's got to make sense. I'm not going to overextend myself and buy something I can't afford. But would I? Absolutely, right? We find the dream home, the perfect home in the right location. Yeah, we would buy today knowing that, hey, we could have been at the peak and we're riding this wave down, but it matches what we need. Still makes sense.
And, if I go back here a few slides, the average close price. So if you look at this red line from last year, where it was just insane, for lack of a better word, even if you bought at the peak of that market, you're still up this year, right? So, and now I know people are saying, oh, but what if I bought in April of this year? Things have cooled down a little bit. Well, give it a calendar year. Things are cyclical. We always kind of go through this, and it's kind of this return to seasonality that we were so accustomed to seeing. But if you look here at active listings and new listings, and just to recap, active listings is a snapshot of one day what our supply is. So on the 1st of November, there were 7,000 homes on the market. The new listings are all the homes that came on the market for the month of October. So that's why those are a little bit different. But every year, even in the height of COVID craziness, the fourth quarter, it dips down. The new listings dip down, the active listings dip down, because it gets colder. It's dark at like 4 o'clock. The holidays are coming around. People don't buy as many homes in the winter months just because they're out looking and they happen to stumble across a home that they love. It's more out of necessity. So that doesn't mean that it's a bad time to sell, because obviously you're going to have very motivated buyers. So that on that side, not a bad time to sell. On the buy side, maybe less competition. So historically, it can be a really great time to buy in Q4 because you have some of these homes on the market and less people that you're competing with. But, this active listings coming down, the new listings coming down, that's all pretty normal to what we're seeing. And then you pair that with a little bit of the pause from another interest rate hike, and it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there, right, Brenna, to touch on or expound on. The market that you sell in is also the market you're going to be buying in. So could you have? Yeah, right. I mean, depending on your situation, right, you could sell now and buy in 6 months, and who knows what that looks like. And did that work to your favor or not, right? But if you're moving your primary residence, the house you're selling, you may be at a disadvantage in some of the negotiations, but you should very well be in an advantage on the other side of it. That's something to keep in mind, right? You didn't lose on both sides of it.
Right. Okay, so this pending listings, so this is the under contracts. So this is down month over month. So we're 9% down month over month. But if you look, it's trending very similarly to what we would be accustomed to seeing this time of year. And then the month supply of inventory being at about 1.7. So the National Association of Realtors says a balanced market is 6 months. In Denver, we say about 4. And again, this is one of those that I think the numbers don't truly show what we're seeing and feeling. So 1.7, under 2 months, for all intents and purposes, that should be a pretty strong seller's market still. And just because it's been such a shift from the literally 8 days or 10 days of inventory, it feels a lot more like a buyer's market. But we still don't have a ton of inventory, right? If we didn't put any more homes on the market, it'd take us less than 2 months for it all to dry up. we still need those homes to come on the market. It's just a big increase, which overall is a great thing. We have more selection. People can look at a few different homes when they're going out and shopping for homes. That's what we want to see, and it's a little bit more normal. But again, if you look at this, the green line being 2019, we're still decently below that. So we're not going straight up a mountain here. And again, that seasonality, it's coming back down, and we're going to have to recoup some of that Q1, Q2 of next year.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at, April of 2023, what the appreciation is over April 2022, I would say it's probably going to be at a lower number, right? But again, we were riding that so high, and then things started to taper and drop off, right? I'm not going to be shocked to see that number below, but I would expect as we get into November, December of next year, that those numbers are still higher than where we're at today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
Let's bring back this video this time next year and see, right? Am I on? Am I off? Right? And that's my prediction, right? Brenna doesn't like to make predictions. I'll make predictions.
I don't. So these might be the two that I think are playing a part in how it feels, right? So the days in the MLS, this is our speed of market. Days in market, days in MLS, same thing. So we are up to 28 days on the market, which is up 7% from last month, 100% from last year. If you remember back, we were at like 8 days, 9 days on the market. But again, if you look at it, 2019, we're still below that. So anything like under 30, that's still historically very low. And, this kind of inverted mountain, this little scoop that we've got going on is very, very common in our seasonality. But again, perspective coming from 9 days going to 28, that feels like now we're walking instead of running at 150 miles an hour. So it's just that adjustment, and it feels so much slower. So we're seeing homes survive maybe 1 or 2 or more weekends, where that was pretty much unheard of a couple of months ago. But, if we look back to 2019, we all thought that was a great market. There was a lot of people buying and selling. There was questions about can this continue? How much can the things go up? So it's coming back to a healthier number on that side. Same thing with this other graph, the percent closed to list price. And yes, this does look like a double black diamond ski hill as we come back down here, but no one wanted to stay at 107% closed to list price. Now, I know there's some sellers saying, well, yes, I do because I got X amount over. But to Matt's point, you probably had to buy in the same market, and then you had to come up with that as well. So we're down to that 98.9, 99% of the close to list price, which is right in line with those 2019 numbers. And we would anticipate that this would, maybe flicker a little bit through the end of the year, but stay in that 98, 99 through the end of the year. And then it typically takes up a little bit as we enter that spring selling season. So this one is a good one for it to come down like that. I think all parties involved in the long run will be much happier with that.
Well, and the pace that this has come down, right? I don't think I'm ever skiing down that slow, and that's perfectly okay with me. To your point, it will, not a fun market. Is it awesome to be able to tell a seller, hey, we got you $80,000 over your list price, which we listed high. Hey, congratulations, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. But think about the 27 offers that were written on that property that didn't win, and the frustration that they had, right? It wasn't a fun market for most of the other reasons, right? And telling 27 other agents, hey, I'm sorry, your client wrote a really good offer. I'd love to work with you, but you didn't win. And the days on market is an interesting thing, right? Because when we're pricing homes based on what is recently sold. Well, what recently sold in, you know, July, June, May, they were on the market a month or 2 months before that, and where the prices were at that point, and now we're still trying to price to match.
Yeah.
Really, we need to be looking at data from the same time last year. We need to be looking at, what just went pending. The just pending homes probably the best barometer for what's happening right now in the market.
Yeah.
And looking at pricing, right? Forget what happened in the spring when it comes to pricing, right? You got to take that with a grain of salt that we still didn't have much inventory. Interest rates were a lot lower, and then things dramatically changed. We can't keep the value conversation the same when those two variables have changed to the degree that they have.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point that really, truly, when you're having pricing conversations, a big question mark for a lot of people has been finding those comparable properties that sold just a few months ago. And so it's, talking to other agents that have active listings right now, what they went under contract for, being aware of that like hyper local market, what's happening in your neighborhood, what's happening in your zip code, as you're making those decisions, and making sure that you're still in pace with what's going on, and you're not missing it.
Yeah, I love that, Brenna. In fact, I think if there's agents who are watching this video, reach out to the agents who have active listings and see what the conversations have been like, what's the showing traffic, and where things are looking at for it, because that's your competition. And I would say that, look, we've got to position a seller correct to be able to sell in this market. So, we're either going to sell your house or we're going to help sell the neighbor's house, because one of the two of them is going to have better value for the money. So how do we compete? How do we position you to win in that? And we've got to do that when it comes to pricing.
Yeah, and I think, I think we all know that it's a changing market, that your strategy has to be different. I would encourage you to talk to Matt, talk to your lender partners or whatever that looks like, about some different strategies we're seeing, without going too much into it. But, buying down the rates, the seller buy downs, the 2-1 buy down, which is, if it's 7%, then the first year it's down to 5%. The second year it's to 6%, and then it goes to 7%. So there's ways to work around the interest rate if that is your only reason for not getting into the real estate market right now. And I think I've said it before, I've seen this a lot on social media, these little memes. It's like, marry the home, date the rate kind of thing. But there's some truth to that. And obviously you don't want to be reckless, and you want to make good decisions and make sure that you can afford it. But there's some different strategies that were just not even in the conversation 6 months ago that are now helping people to find, creative problem solving, to get into this market and to take advantage of the pros of it. So, if you need specific data, we're happy to pull that and talk to you. Again, this is the 7 metro major counties. So if you live outside of that, we can help you. Or if inside of that, if you want to get more granular with it, we can do that as well and see what's happening, your zip code, your neighborhood, because that's really, if you're looking to enter the market and not just casually wanting to know high level what's going on, what you need to do.
Yeah. So to that point on, the marry the house, date the rate. I've always liked that philosophy anyways, right? I think it just makes sense. You buy the house for the reasons for the house. For those that are scared that the interest rates are going to go up, there's conversation the Fed's going to raise them again and try to curtail inflation. Well, get moving faster, right? If the interest rates are going to go up, because you get into the house and you lock in your rate. It's not like, well, I bought today and interest rates are going up to 8 or 9% next week and my payments changed. And if you're in the camp that believes that interest rates are going to go down next year, the year after, as we go into potentially a recession, as we go into election season, well, you can get a good deal on the house now and then take advantage of interest rates if they do drop again. So the hesitation around the rate really should just be, can you afford what you need and or want in this market?
Yeah, if interest rates go down, I think a lot more people are going to enter the market, and then we have more demand. So then prices are going to go up. So again, it's just what side of the coin do you want to be on? But it's a different kind of tricky, right, in this market.
Yep, good time, right? If you're a buyer and have cash. So my people that have been sitting on cash, let's talk about getting it into real estate and get some good deals.
Yeah.
Interest rates didn't impact you.
We've also seen a bump in our, ultra luxury for those people that can buy, $8 million houses for cash. Must be nice, right? I know that's not the situation for most people, but good for the Colorado economy for sure.
Yeah, so the more luxury market hasn't been as impacted with kind of the values where they're at, and seeing the same kind of results with declining because of the interest rates.
Yeah. Well, that is all I have for today as far as going through the numbers. Anything else you want me to touch on?
No. So nothing you wanted to touch on the other slide deck?
I don't think so. I think we got it.
Yeah. Well, it's a good conversation, and I like the graphs. I'm visual, and I want to see what the specifics are with how does this relate to where we were. So it helps as we look at. Now, again, this is a 7 major Denver metro counties. Real estate's hyper local. I know subdivisions that have active listings where they haven't had a property go under pending in 4 months.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's what's going on in that market. And I know other subdivisions that as soon as anything comes up, it's still going off the market, right? It's still going to be priced right. It's still going to show well. So we look at where things need to be for you in your specific situation. We need to analyze that because of the hyper local nature that is our real estate market, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what we've got here for this month. Any final parting words on the stats or anything you're looking forward to for the next month?
Yeah, I think, the holiday season with the boys is going to be fun. Daylight savings has been a bit brutal with a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. But, I do enjoy the holiday season as much as I do not like 4 p.m. sunsets. So.
Yeah, that's a little tough, right? The kids at an early age don't really understand the whole extra hour of sleep as you fall back. So they're still waking up, an hour and a half early from where they should be. So that's been an adjustment. But yeah, looking forward to Thanksgiving for sure.
Yep.
So cool. Well, as you join this, right, continue reaching out to me with specific questions about what's going on in your local market, what the situation might be for you. I'm happy to have the conversation, whether you're thinking about buying now or selling now or 6 months or never, right? You're just curious. We want to be able to provide real answers to real questions that you might have, regardless of whatever your goal is. So again, Brenna, thank you for taking time out of your day to join me on these. I know I get a lot of folks that reach out to me personally, like, hey, love the videos that you and Brenna are doing. I watch them every time. Thank you. And so again, so appreciative to you and Land Title for putting the information together.
Well, thanks for talking numbers with me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, enjoy your holiday, enjoy the Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you next month.
See ya.